Hi, I just want to make a statement about the study of history and some complications and troubles that I see with it that I'd like to address. Many times you'll hear an historian say a statement like, there were 300 Spartans at the Pass of Thermopylae in 480 BC. That sounds like a very simple statement. However, there are complications with it. For instance, there should be a qualifier there saying something of the nature of, according to Herodotus, there were 300 Spartans at the passage of Thermopylae. And even the 480 BC is complicated because how we date, certainly Herodotus would not have used the term 480 BC. And this gets complicated, how to date events. But more interestingly, how do we know that there were 300 Spartans? Who wrote this? And how far after the events did Herodotus write about this? Well, he wrote about the Persian Wars a full generation after they occurred. He was a young person when they happened. I think he was about four. They estimate about 4 years old when that battle happened. So obviously he wasn't there. He may have been able to speak to people who saw the battle or even participated in the battle, perhaps. If he did, certainly they would have had many different impressions. You can imagine being in a military battle and the difference between your perspective, whether you are an infantryman, whether you're a cavalryman, whether you were with the general staff. You would have three entirely different points of view and impressions of that battle. Here's a good example. The Battle of Cannae is one of the most studied battles in history for many reasons. And yet, there is still a debate among historians as to which side of the river it took place on, even after all these years. And to my knowledge, there's no archaeological evidence to support that the battle took place at a certain spot. Therefore, we're just using the writings of people who either lived a generation later or even hundreds of years later. Imagine trying to write a definitive history of the American Revolution at this time. You know, the difficulties, no one's alive that remembers those events. So we're relying upon, just as those ancient writers relied upon, secondhand stories about these historical events. So the authoritativeness with which this appears when it's in print, or with which it appears when someone gives a lecture, is not really justified. And I don't think that there's deceit going on. I think it's just a shorthand. And when I ask you, when I do these videos about history, if I fail to quote my source material, I don't mean to do so. It's an omission only as an abbreviation. I don't mean to put myself up as an authority any more than you can be an authority. A lot of times, the events, especially in ancient history, there are only a few sources to draw upon, and you can familiarize yourself with those sources as well as I, and we can study them together and try to make sense of them and come up with our own theories. And that's the fun of history, really, is trying to see the similarities and differences between events that happened then and now, and also to draw a line, a thread throughout history of the human condition. Human beings acting the way they do. Are they different now than they were then? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I think it's important for us to be able to realize that and recognize that. And I think there are things that we can learn from that. And certainly, that's what the study of history, for me, is all about. It's about the human story and our part in it. And perhaps by studying events in the past, we can make better decisions for our present and tomorrow. So I hope you'll join me in this, and feel free to call me on any information that you think is either inaccurate, or my conclusions are inaccurate, or I didn't quote the sources right. I'm happy to have a lively, intelligent debate with anyone out there who is willing to. So I hope you enjoy the rest of my videos that will follow. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening.